All right, this is it. Finals time, MGM version 7. Here we are. I'm Toffel, and I'm with.
I am Max, and I am also the guy sitting on the right here.
Are
I'm
you-
actually part in the finals.
Oh, how convenient.
Yes, I'm super happy that I reached this point. This is really great achievement for me because this was basically my first big Highlander tournament that I played,
Yeah.
and I'm super happy that I made it up to this point.
I'm just saying, like, you chose kind of the lame part of playing your deck. It would have been cooler to take a reasonable cool deck, like eggs, for example.
Yeah, but I think I put myself in quite a good spot first of all because I still think mono red as a deck is really powerful,
Yeah,
and also it is. Although we have a lot of interesting situations that we had already during the tournament,
yeah.
a lot of really interesting decisions. There is still the whole strategy is kind of straightforward.
Well, that's why you're there and I'm not. Okay, so we see Sebastian here, your opponent already. We saw his games in the quarterfinals, and he plays his version of Scape Shift. We see some tuners, some counter spells, and uh, aggressive defensive threat in form of True Nemesis, which I assume is rather defensive against you.
Yes, it looks like it.
Both hands seem reasonable. I think there's maybe a chance that Sebastian could mulligan because there's no ramp, and it's pretty dangerous to not do a lot. Counter spells are okay, but remand kind of doesn't do much against you. If there's an idea what to get with Mystical Tutor, maybe that gets better. I'm not sure though. Like my best idea for Mystical would be to get a Cultivate or Kodamas Reach. Interesting. Well, yeah, as you can see, you're like, I play my one drop. What are you doing?
Yeah. The interesting part is here that this fetch land actually has very few targets because he's basically just splashing red. He's not playing white at all. And he really has to get the Underground Sea here because he wants to get to the blue mana and to get off his spells.
Yeah, like Underground Sea works perfectly with the Tiger in hand.
Yes.
But it doesn't give him double blue, of course. So
yes.
So
basically, he has to really think about what to get with the Mystical Tutor here.
And I think, is it now time? You can get a Nature's Law, which gets one more land next turn, and this can be a tropical island, so Spell Pierce would also be able to be played. But it's interesting. You rather want to have something that gives you more than just one land.
Yeah, but you really have to operate on a low amount of resources mana-wise here.
Yeah.
Now he drew a Mana Leak, which even he searched for a Mana Leak, I think, right?
No.
He didn't. He didn't play the tutor at all.
Yeah, okay. He didn't play it. Mana Leak is not the card he wanted to see because it doesn't get him anywhere further. At this point, you're the one taking pressure, and Sebastian has to, since his defenses are not really good, he has to make sure that he's faster or at least holding you off a little. And with
the good thing for him is that I actually have good 2-drops that I want to play here.
Yeah.
And that's how he can actually get value from his counter spells.
Oh.
If at this point I don't have a 2-drop and I only have burn spells in my hand, I would just attack him and say go. And then he's left with all the Mana Leak and Remand in his hand.
There's Scalding Tarn and the Lumbering Falls, which is perfect. Now he can play the True Nemesis, which I'm imagining you don't have any chance of dealing with.
There's, I think, some spells in the deck that prevent damage prevention from happening.
Oh, smart.
It's like Skullcrack, which actually says damage can't be prevented this turn.
So if you go
that actually gets around the protection.
So if you play Skullcrack, you either have to deal damage to all creatures, which is hard to do, I guess, or you just attack and get deal damage in form of
basically, I just attack, he blocks, I play Skullcrack, and then they just trade because the
damage
is not prevented. But this is pretty much the only. Okay, I'm really eager to enter my turn here.
Yeah, come on.
Shuffling. Who invented fetch lands?
Is there a point in your deck where you say okay, at some points of the game I got so bored because I don't have to do anything?
No, actually not. Because, like, I mean, okay, sometimes you had the game where you were drawing like 6 lands in a row at the end of the game. But even those games were super excited because usually at that point your opponent is on 3 and every burn spell is live. So you're really excited about every single draw step. Although nothing is really happening in the game.
Yeah.
Besides your opponent being really careful of what he does and what he leaves up as protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still those games are still super exciting.
So
But there's
right now,
rarely a game where you get super crushed.
yeah, right now you have the problem that the Druid Nemesis is really doing a good job of having your creature heavy draw, like holding it back, and also your like you didn't do much damage before that happened.
Yes.
So,
the interesting part is that at some point, like he still doesn't have. Okay, he has to keep back the Nemesis, so he doesn't have much pressure.
yeah.
And his counter spells also all don't interact with more creatures. And what I can just do here is at some point just start slamming in. Okay, I have to start sacrificing some guys here.
Yeah,
But
sure.
like for instance, playing the Hellspark now and just getting in there, throwing in another burn spell to get the abbot bigger, would just be fine to just push through damage.
Oh, I mean that can get be lethal very fast. Yeah, if you play Hellspark, it's not even worth countering because you can just unearth it. Maybe next turn, maybe this turn. You can use the port. He's still 3 lands away from getting the scape shift being lethal. Also, you have the neat side effect that you are 20. So it takes 1 more land for him to deal the lethal amount of damage. Here you see Mana Leak actually doing something. Now you can choose maybe waiting, maybe tapping. Both seem interesting.
Yeah, the interesting part is also that that this barbarian ring that I have here is actually like a possibility for me to get damage.
True.
But also if he actually has scape shift, he could just attack once with the Nemesis and be fine.
Oh,
so I think
yeah.
this is nothing I have to play around.
Yeah, that's a very good observation. Sure. So now you get 3. Sebastian goes to 13. Yeah, what is this?
I think this is Incendiary Flow
Yeah.
from Eldritch Moon, and yeah, sometimes some Highlander players are not very familiar with a lot of the cards from the newer sets. But it actually happened to me quite often that this specific card was red because nobody was expecting it.
It's also there's so many cards you cannot possibly know every card.
Yes, exactly.
Like, that's the interesting thing when you play like a constructed deck. Almost every card your opponent plays, you're expecting. But there's so many cards in Highlander that are weird and surprising. Like, one of my favorite cards to play in Highlander is Teferi's Response. And that is such a weird card because it counters an effect that targets one of your lands, and it destroys the effect if it's a permanent, and it draws 2 cards. So pretty narrow, costs 2 mana. But if your opponent, for example, plays a wasteland, it gets countered. You draw 2 cards. Well, sounds reasonable. But if your opponent, for example, plays a Karn and exiles your land, the Karn gets destroyed, and all that really shaky stuff.
Yeah, there's always the possibility to have like such neat card being super blowouts when they actually work.
One of my questions I wanted to ask you, I'm a huge fan of Hidetsugu's Second Right, and I maybe I'm really biased, but it feels like this card would be really good because you can almost always assemble a place where you can fit it in. Like, for example, now, especially, like, look at this situation. If you get your opponent to 10, he's dead.
Yes, it's really interesting because like the card itself is super powerful when it works. But first of all, there's a lot of interactions that your opponents can have as well. For instance, just having a fetch land in play.
Yeah.
But also, the other point is why I don't think the card fits all that well. It is another 4-drop. And you can actually play much more powerful 4-drops, like, for instance, Cost of the Hammer, which is in the deck, which does a lot of damage immediately. And also, when Hidetsugu's Second Right doesn't work, it's like the worst card ever. But
True.
when Cause of the Hammer like is not in the best spot, he's still super fine.
That's true. That's probably...
Here we actually have a really interesting spot because
Yeah.
I start firing off some burn spells, and I actually get the Abbot of Carol Keep up to 4 toughness. So it can survive a block of the True Name Nemesis.
And then Sebastian has the weird decision of taking 5 damage or taking 2 damage, but not reducing the board state.
Exactly. And that's why I really like going for this line.
Yeah.
And also there's a lot of value of, first of all, getting cards in the graveyard because of the Barbarian Ring.
Yeah.
And also, at some point, I might even be able to flashback the Firebolt that I just played.
Yeah, also just get to play your spells while your opponent can't do anything.
Yeah.
So you know that Sebastian got the Scape Shift from the Clutch of the Undercity, so you also want to have a game-ending move.
Yes.
Like this, you know, if my opponent hits another 2 lands, possibly even not necessarily next turn, because there needs to be some mana ramp in form of a 2-mana Farseek or a Nature's Lore, but definitely in 2 turns you want to be dealing lethal damage.
Yes, exactly. And that's also where the Hellspark Elemental out of the graveyard can really help, I think.
So here, this is kind of cool, because if Sebastian gets to the point where he gets a mana and a 2-mana ramp, then it's lethal. But the Brainstorm also costs a mana. So if he tutors for Nature's Law, the Nature's Law costs 2 mana, and then it adds 1 mana because of the coming to play untapped. And then he could Brainstorm into another land.
But I actually think he can do it the other way around, because he Brainstorms now. If he finds a land, he keeps it in hand, he puts something else back on top, and then in upkeep, he plays Mystical Tutor, searches for a ramp spell, and has exactly enough mana to play the Scape Shift for 7.
So is this lethal?
I think it is.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what you just said. He found the Breeding Pool, which comes into play untapped.
Yes.
So he puts back Jace and Treetop Village. He untaps, pays 1 for Mystical Tutor, which leaves him with 4 mana, draws Nature's Law, plays Nature's Law, gets to 3 mana, plays Breeding Pool, that's 4 mana, and he has 7 lands in play. That looks really lethal to me. And I guess, yeah, Sebastian also found this interesting. Yes. So all of a sudden, although it seemed like Sebastian has a very slow start, he managed to get exactly at this point in time where he needs to do it. Yeah, he has 3 visits, also a form of Nature's Lore.
And that's also the interesting part of having so many tutors available, because he has so many choices. Like, first of all, the transmuting for Scape Shift was necessary to get to his 1 big combo piece, but then again, also having the Mystical Tutor to search out exactly what he needed, like
exactly,
the red
yes.
spell, exactly got he where he needed to be.
Wow. Impressive. Yes, did this, do that, play Scape Shift, and that's exactly what it needs. Ah, brutal. Okay, so that's it. 1-0 for Sebastian. I think you felt very comfortable in this game, but that's magic. Sometimes stuff happens. Okay, I want to know. Next game.
Especially in Highlander, where there's so many powerful things that can happen.
Yeah,